Hi everyone, Dr. Gasevich here, and in this short video, I want to show you how you can use generative AI as a research support tool, specifically to help you generate alternative and complementary keywords for your literature review. This can be especially helpful when you're researching topics in language teaching, TESOL, or multilingual education. By the end of the video, you should be able to explain the purpose of using multiple and alternative keywords in a literature review, use generative AI to generate alternative and complementary keywords related to a language education research topic, evaluate AI-generated keywords for relevance, accuracy, and alignment with TESOL and ACTFL research conventions, and demonstrate ethical and responsible use of generative AI as a research support tool rather than a replacement for scholarly reading and analysis. One of the biggest challenges in a literature review isn't reading, it's finding the right sources. Researchers often use different terms to talk about very similar ideas. If you rely on only one or two keywords, you may miss important studies that use different terminology or specific disciplinary language, or maybe even a different theoretical framework. This is where generative AI can help, not by replacing your thinking, but by expanding it. Let's say you wonder how incorporating daily think, pair, share tasks affects learners' use of the target language during class over a 2-week period. So, your research question is, how does incorporating daily think, pair, share tasks affect novice ESL learners' use of the target language during class over 2 weeks? Looking at your research question, you identify 4 keywords or key phrases that might be useful for your search of the literature. Think, pair, share tasks, novice, ESL learners, and use of the target language. Immediately, you recognize that there are a number of different ways to refer to your target population. You know that some of these terms, such as limited English proficient students, are outdated and have fallen out of use, but older research will still be listed under those outdated terms. So you need to keep them in mind when you're conducting your search. While you might have immediately recognized alternatives for ESL learners, you may be having trouble thinking of alternatives for your other keywords and phrases. This is where generative AI can come in handy. The first step is creating an effective prompt, and I've provided you with a sample here. You're welcome to use it for your own research. Once I generated my prompt, I went to ChatGPT and I put the prompt in to generate a list of possible alternatives. And as you can see, ChatGPT starts going crazy. It's just spitting out a ton of different words, some of them more appropriate than others for the purpose of my research. So that's where your understanding of your research and your ability to look at the list and decide which of these words might be appropriate and which ones aren't comes into play. And so that's where you're not letting it think for you. You're letting it do some of the heavy lifting and maybe suggesting things that you wouldn't have thought of on your own. So it's more of a collaborator than doing the work for you. And a lot of these words I'm just going to be throwing out, and I might need to take multiple stabs at it, trying to refine my prompt or maybe even refining my own keywords until I get a list that reflects what I actually had in mind for my research. And after a couple of passes, I came up with some alternative keywords that I can use in my search. I've put them in the table here that you'll find in the template for the assignment. And With that, I'm ready to move on to the next phase, which is a search of databases to try to find some articles on these topics. A quick reminder, GenAI does not replace reading the literature and making scholarly decisions for yourself. Not all suggested terms are going to be appropriate for your research. It's your job to evaluate which terms make sense, check how researchers are actually using them, and decide which keywords align with your research question. Using AI in this way is ethical because you're using it to support the search process, not to write the paper or interpret the research for you. That being said, AI is still a very contested area, and there are some faculty members who are absolutely against any use of generative AI in their classes. So while I'm allowing you to use generative AI in this very limited way in my class, you need to check with your other faculty members before doing the same in their classes. Used thoughtfully, GenAI can help you cast a wider net, discover conversations you didn't know existed, and strengthen your literature review. It's a tool, not a shortcut. But when used well, it can make your research process more efficient and informed. Thanks for watching, and let me know if you have any questions.